Good evening, Patriots, and welcome back to my channel. I hope y'all had a great last week, and I hope this week is working out for y'all as well. I apologize. I know it's been a couple days since I've made a new video. Again, my apologies for that. This past weekend was kind of busy, and actually last night I made a whole video for this. But after editing, I realized the microphone, it was good, but came in pretty scratchy. So as you can tell, I'm trying out a new setup tonight. My goal is not to use this the whole time. It's just temporarily until I can get enough funds built up to get better equipment and better gear. So on that note, if you can, please continue to like, share, subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. With regards to donating, if you'd like to donate to my PayPal, I would greatly appreciate it. Any funds given to that will all go towards building this channel, hence getting a good high quality microphone, better equipment, better lighting, all that. So until then, I am improvising, I'm adapting, I'm overcoming. The purpose of this is to hopefully prevent me from sounding like I'm in a large whale. I went back and I watched some of my old videos, and while they were good, I liked them, I didn't like how I sounded. And so I hope this helps with that sound quality. Again, I know it's kind of huge. I know it's massive, but based off of my earlier tests, the microphone does sound pretty good. And I hope it works out in the end. Last week, we began digging into the Bill of Rights. More importantly, we looked at the historical context to the Bill of Rights, looking at how it was created, understanding that when our country was first formed, it wasn't a great kumbaya, yay, we're free, yay. No, it was quite the opposite. Became independent, great. Well, now what? Over time, you start seeing a schism create within our country. Ultimately, that schism involves two debating parties. This party believed that there should be a strong centralized government, the Federalists, whereas this party believed in more power to each individual state and less power in the central federal government, the Anti-Federalists. That schism, that debate, eventually led to a compromise. And that compromise was the Bill of Rights. To paraphrase, it was a way of telling the federal government, okay, you can have power, but on one condition. Every U.S. citizen must have rights. Rights that cannot be trampled upon, rights that cannot be abused. Basically, the rights that we enjoy to this very day. Rights such as the freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of the press, and the right to keep and bear arms. Now, obviously, there are way more rights than just those. However, in my opinion, I think the first two amendments are the most important ones out of all of them. Tonight, we're going to look at the Bill of Rights from a global perspective and apply it to modern day. So, without any further ado, sit back, relax, grab your coffee, and let's get started. As I was preparing for this video, I stumbled upon a really cool website that I wanted to share with y'all tonight. This website will be the basis of this entire video. Constituteproject.org is a fascinating website. What it does, it lets you analyze constitutions from multiple countries throughout the world. For example, when you click on the tab here, countries, it lets you choose from one of these continents. For example, let's say we want to take a look at the African continent. As you can see, it lists all the countries in Africa. So let's just take a look at Morocco. What's really cool about this is once you click on it, you then can choose what you want to view. If you're a person who likes data, just scroll down here and it gives you the numbers, the stats, things like that, which is all well and good. But tonight, we're going to look at the actual Constitution and what it says with regards to the Bill of Rights. You have an option. We're going to go with PDF for this video. Boom, here you go. This is the current Constitution of Morocco. It looks like the last time it was amended was in 2011. So on this main page, you see the table of contents. Now this covers pretty much everything involving how this country is led and managed. But let's see what their Bill of Rights look like. As you can see, the Bill of Rights is pretty straightforward. For example, Article 20 says the right to life is the first right of any human being. The law protects this right. Okay, pretty straightforward. Article 25. The freedoms of thought, of opinion, and of expression under all forms are guaranteed. The freedom of creation, publication, and presentation in literary, artistic manners, and scientific, technical research are also guaranteed. Well, that's pretty interesting. That sounds awfully familiar to one of our rights. Article 28 of the Moroccan Constitution states the freedom of the press is guaranteed and may not be limited by any form of prior censure. So as you can tell, what we're doing is looking at different constitutions and looking for key phrases and analyzing what their Bill of Rights look like. On that note, let's go back to one that we should be pretty familiar with. Freedom of speech within the First Amendment will be the main source of analysis for this video. We're going to see how other countries tackle the concept of freedom of speech. For starters, let's take a look at Europe. Let's see here. Let's go with Germany. Here we go. Looks like the most recent update was in 2014. Alright, so let's go to table of contents. Let's find an article that pertains to freedom of speech. Here we go. Article 5. Every person shall have the right to freely express and disseminate his opinions in speech, writing, and pictures, and to inform himself without hindrance from generally acceptable sources. Well, that's interesting. Key part here, without hindrance from generally accessible sources. Well, what could that possibly mean? Well, hindrance is a way of saying to stop, to prevent, to block. So what could generally accessible sources look like? Freedom of the press and freedom of reporting by means of broadcast and films shall be guaranteed. There shall be no censorship. That word is a key word that you're going to see repeated in multiple countries. That's right. Spoiler alert, that's the main focus of tonight. Not just freedom of speech, but also one word, censorship. Let's go back to our Constitution, and let's see if our Constitution mentions that word at all. Control F, nothing. So to be clear, I took an oath to support and defend my Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That will never change. But here's one thing that's very interesting about the United States Constitution. It's broad. Congress shall make no law respecting or applying anything to the freedom of speech. Nowhere in there does it say that censorship shall be banned. Private companies do have the right to enforce whatever policies they wish. But what if that private company gets so big that it literally controls the flow of global information? When a private company gets so big that other countries are suing those private companies, what does that tell you? Case in point, recently, a Russian court sued a certain big tech platform. I'll let you guess which one that is. Why did they sue them? Well, because that big tech platform, that American private company, was violating their Bill of Rights. Poland also sued another big tech company. Why? Because their citizens' Bill of Rights were being violated. Based off of the Bill of Rights that we just read for Germany, Germany has every right to sue any big tech platform for any form of censorship. So the point of that is to show that this issue, this current dilemma that we're facing in our country, is not just an American problem. It's a global problem. While the First Amendment of our country may leave this freedom open to interpretation, the great thing about it is that it opens the door to a global conversation like we're having right now. Let's go back to the main page here and take a look at another country and see how they approach freedom of speech. Let's go to an African country. Let's try Ethiopia. So they make it pretty clear. They list out how their constitution is organized. But let's go to rights. Here we go. Look at that. Article 29, the right of thought, opinion, and expression. Everyone has the right to hold opinions without interference. That's very similar to the phrase without hindrance. Prohibition of any form of censorship. So Ethiopia also has laws against censorship. Okay, you know what? Let's move away from Africa for a second. Let's go to a European country that was very different during the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, and the 70s. Mother Russia, the source of great epic memes and a very interesting constitution. Let's go to human rights and freedoms. Article 29 of the Russian Constitution says this: everyone shall be guaranteed freedom of thought and speech. Okay, now this is where it gets juicy. You ready for this? Hold on, here we go. Number 2, propaganda or agitation which arouses social, racial, national, or religious hatred and hostility shall be prohibited. Okay, think about that for a second. Think about what that actually means. Propaganda or agitation which arouses any type of hatred as listed here and hostility shall be prohibited. So I'm going to ask you 2 questions to really chew on tonight, and you might lose some sleep, and for that I apologize. Well, not really. Sorry, not sorry. Anyways, would BLM be allowed in Russia? Furthermore, would critical race theory be allowed in Russia? Let's continue. Nobody shall be forced to express his thoughts and convictions or to deny them. Oh, it gets better. Let's go to 5. The freedom of the mass media shall be guaranteed. However, here we go. Censorship shall be prohibited. I love this. Here's why I love this. We're not talking about the United States Constitution. We're talking about the Russian Constitution. The country that used to be the Soviet Union, the country that used to dominate half of the modern day world. Here is the irony. The modern day Russian Constitution provides more clarity to the freedom of speech than the United States Constitution does. Now again, I'm not saying that as a negative against our own Constitution. I'm saying that to make this very clear to people. When you have big tech censoring people in America, it's not just an American problem, it's a global problem. A problem that countries like Germany, Ethiopia, Morocco, and Russia will not tolerate. Let's go to another Asian country. Let's take a look at Japan. For time's sake, let's go Control F. Let's type in the great word censorship. Look at that. Article 21. No censorship shall be maintained. Let's go to the Republic of Korea. Now, just so we're on the same page, this is referring to South Korea. Control F. Licensing or censorship of speech in the press shall not be recognized. Well, I wonder, what does North Korea say? Of course, the name of this country is a joke. The Democratic People's Republic of Korea. Well, let's see how democratic and republic this country actually is. Let's go to the fundamental rights and duties of citizens. Article 62 states, a North Korean citizen is under the protection of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, regardless of the domicile. So in a fancy way, that's saying that if you are a North Korean citizen, you are under the protection of the state, the country. That sounds good, right? Well, let's keep digging. In North Korea, the rights and duties of citizens are based on the collectivist principle, one for all and all for one. That sounds awfully a lot like Marxist doctrine, Soviet doctrine. But no, hold on a second. It says Democratic People's Republic, right? Right. So it must be good. It must be a beacon of freedom and liberty, because Article 67 says citizens are guaranteed freedom of speech, the press, assembly. Okay, that's great, right? But the state shall guarantee the conditions for the free activities. So if you are a citizen of North Korea, you can say what you want as long as the state agrees with it. You can write in a newspaper as long as the state conditions you to write for the newspaper. Okay. Guess what? That's a modern day Soviet Union. Let's move on from North Korea. Let's go to the biggie. Let's go to the one that's been the highlight of last year and this year. The People's Republic of China. Let's see what their constitution looks like. This is actually very exciting. So this was recently amended in 2018. Okay, so it must be good. It must have modern day freedoms. Article 35. The people of China may enjoy freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom of assembly. Great, right? The exercise by the citizens of China and their freedoms and rights may not infringe upon the interests of the state, of society, and of the collective, or upon the lawful freedoms and rights of other citizens. So what does this tell us? It tells us that countries like North Korea and China, who have the word republic in it, are far from being an actual republic. They are modern day Soviet unions. But as we've seen tonight, the freedom of speech is not just an American right. It is a global human right. And not just a right provided by a government, it's a right guaranteed by your creator, a right that is inalienable. Obviously, some countries don't allow their citizens the freedom of speech. Well, they do, but as long as it doesn't go against the state. Now back to our country. We do have a beautiful Bill of Rights. Our Bill of Rights guarantees multiple freedoms to all American citizens. The big debate now is, should we add the word censorship to our Constitution, or should we leave it the way it is? So what's the point? We looked at the US Bill of Rights. In particular, we focused on the freedom of speech. Okay. We saw that other countries also have their own version of freedom of speech. Okay. Well, why should I care? How can I apply this to my modern day life? Well, here's how you do it. Get engaged. Not just with your friends and family, but also with your local representatives. You have every right to petition your government for a redress of grievances. After going onto that website, if you feel that our Constitution should have the verbiage censorship shall be banned or censorship should be prohibited, write to your congressman, write to your representative, write to your city, state, federal representatives, write to them, tell them, hey, this needs to be changed. This needs to be added. That is your right as an American citizen. You can leave it the way it is. That's totally fine. But if you feel that word needs to be added to our Constitution, I think you have a good argument for that. I think that argument has a strong standing, especially when you compare our Constitution to Russia. You would think theirs would be more restrictive, but in reality, it's not. It offers more clarification, and it explains why Russian courts are suing big tech. Things like this explain why Poland is suing big tech. In closing, take this information and use it however you wish. You can tuck it away and save it for later. You can forget about it, or You can use this newfound knowledge and go to your local leadership, go to your state leadership, go to your federal leadership and tell them, hey, why is it that these countries prohibit censorship, but ours doesn't? And see what their answer is. Now, before you go, if you can, please make sure to like, share, subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. Like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, any donations you make to my PayPal account will all go towards improving the gear and equipment for this channel. I really do not wish to wear this all the time, but if it provides better audio for you guys, I'll keep wearing it because you guys are the ones that matter, not me. Also, down below, you're going to see a lot of links to other YouTube channels. These are people that have inspired me to create this channel. Please share the love, support them in any way you can. I greatly appreciate it. Never surrender, never submit. This Constitution vet, signing.